Ice. Crystal methamphetamine. It's cheap, highly addictive and extraordinarily powerful. It is now more popular than heroin, playing havoc with the minds and the bodies of nearly 50,000 Australians.
You can smoke it, snort it and inject it, and when it takes hold, lives are destroyed. But you can return from the brink of oblivion. Richard Smith is a former addict turned lifesaver, and he joins us this morning to reveal the terrible truth of the new ice age. Good morning, Richard. Thanks for coming in.
Morning, Richard. Thanks, Kim.
I don't know anything about ice. I've heard bits and pieces, but I just don't know what it is.
Well, quite simply, it's a central nervous system psychostimulant. So it just speeds you up. It's an amphetamine. We've had speed around for a long time. And crystal meth is just a purer form of amphetamine.
A stronger form?
A stronger form.
So it hits you faster than speed would hit you?
It certainly hits you. It hits you as quick as the amphetamine, but it's stronger and it lasts longer. And it's more intense. And so the side effects are more intense. It's like amplifying up your voice.
Right. Where does it come from?
Well, it's manufactured in labs. It's manufactured in laboratories like any drug is. And we've got a lot of them locally. I think you're looking at some footage here of some of the labs that have been busted in Victoria. But they have huge labs in Asia. They've just recently busted 31 tonnes in China. It was on its way here.
Oof.
You know, so we're talking huge sums.
Cheap?
Cheap. To buy a gram is about 350 to 450, but you only need to have 0.1 of that to last for 24 hours. So that's $35 for 24 hours of use.
So the effect will last for 24 hours?
When you first use it, yeah. And then what happens is, like any drug, you get a tolerance to it and you need more, and when you need more money, and so it looks attractive at the beginning at $35 for a night out. And I was talking to a young guy where I bought a jacket yesterday in Country Road, and he said, if you're not using ice, you're uncool. And that's what's happening in our culture, in our youth.
So it's that widespread?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just about every young person that I know has tried it.
Wow.
Has tried it.
And we mentioned in the intro there that you can snort it, you can inject it. It's easy to take.
It is. Most people will probably take it orally first. They'll have it with a drink at a club, or they'll
swallow it as well.
Yeah, swallow.
What do you have to? We saw the crystals there. Well, you just drop a crystal in, or do you
can just drop a crystal in a glass of water, or you can. They usually smoke it in like a crack pipe, and it has an incredibly intense effect.
So it's a stimulant. So it's just like a stronger form of speed in that they're awake and anxious and
can party all night, and they feel absolutely confident. You know, they're 6 foot tall and bulletproof. So people that have, you know, maybe low self-esteem would be attracted to it.
Okay, well, the laws of nature tell you that for every high there's got to be a low. So if the highs are that high, there must be some crashing.
Absolutely.
Lows.
I've been treating addicts for the last 20 years. And in the last 2 to 3 years, I've had my life threatened, I've seen extreme violence, and I'd never seen that the 17 years before.
Why is that happening? Is there a component in the drug that makes you... we used to hear about crack and the extraordinary sort of power that crack addicts had. Is there something like that in ice?
Exactly the same. It's not exactly the same, but it's very, very similar to crack. And the violence is, if somebody has a predisposition to be angry in dealing with their emotions, amplify that by tenfold. That's what you've got. You know, I've got a client in our program at the moment that's there for armed robbery, and the armed robbery was holding a knife to his mother's throat for a credit card. Man. And he wouldn't, you know, he loves his mother. Yeah. He would never do that.
Yeah.
You know, but the ice has made this guy such an angry man that, you know, it's bringing up maybe deep-seated anger for him, but it's extremely difficult for practitioners like me to deal with.
And also, I suppose too, if they end up in hospital, then what happens then? I mean, if they're found out of control, the police or an ambulance or something, ambulance officer finds them out of control in a club or something like that, they're obviously going to take them to hospital, and then the medical staff have to deal with this, don't they?
That's right. And look, what can happen too is they get psychotic episodes. So they end up in the mental health stream, and because as soon as they mention they take drugs, they go, well, we can't treat you. So it's hospital casualties, which are already overburdened, and, you know, it's a drain on the resources.
How concerned should parents be out there and in terms of how widespread this is?
Well, certainly parents that have children that are going, or young adults that are going out clubbing and staying out till 7 in the morning. I don't know if you remember when you used to go out to the hotel and you'd be home by about 2, 3 at the maximum. Well, they're going off to recovery at 7 o'clock. Now, you can't do that without some sort of stimulant.
Okay, so that's got to be the
so
first
that's
warning to
the
parents.
first warning is if they're out all night and they come home and they're still chirpy, you'd have to ask a question. There's a lot of other sort of symptoms that you can pick up on, that parents can pick up on, and that is that, you know, they'll be grinding their teeth, typical amphetamine side effect, or they might have what we call speed sores. So they get a tactile hallucination, and it's called formication, so don't spell it wrong. And it's, they think they've got mites under their skin, so they try and pick them out, squeeze them out on their face, so you get speed sores.
So like the junkie itches that you hear about.
but more intense.
Really?
Absolutely more intense. They're trying to dig out something they think is in there.
Right.
And a little mite, something in their paws.
But does that occur to someone who's taken it for the first time, or does that sort of thing occur to someone who's...
Well, it can. It can. There's no rule of thumb here. Some people will have immediate side effects like psychosis, like hallucinations. Some people will have an incredible tolerance to it and will get the speedy effects and the high effects and the good effects. And it'll take time. Right. As they use more and the tolerance gets higher, that's when you start to see the anger and the violence. And,
right.
And, you know, look, this is without doing any formal research. I've noticed over the last few years, just the newspaper and the news articles about violence, stabbings, around clubs. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to put 2 and 2 together and say, well, OK, there's an epidemic of ice and there's an epidemic of violence.
And you know firsthand what this is all about too.
Yeah.
I mean, you are a former addict, you're a former smuggler, you're a reformed addict now. I mean, you've been there in every sense.
What sort of addict were you? What was your poison?
Well, I usually sum it up by saying that I started off as a motor mechanic. Then I was a businessman that liked drugs. Right. And then I started selling drugs, smuggling drugs, running guns, robbing banks, prisoner, then a psychologist. So that was a sort of quick...
Certainly know what you're talking about then.
But I used heroin for 12 years on a daily basis. Wow. I used alcohol, started off with alcohol like most young people, binge drinking when you're a kid, progressed onto cannabis, like that. Okay. I actually started selling it before I liked it. I grew up in West Heidelberg, very poor family, so I was looking at an economic solution to my life, and got involved that way. And I was very successful at business as a young man. I should have stayed in that business. My family now have a chain of automotive franchises around the country, and I helped start that. So there's things I could have done, but I chose to use drugs. And I don't think I was a bad person, but what happened is that drugs took control. Yeah. You know, a man takes a drug takes a drug, then the drug takes the man. Yeah. It's a very simple Chinese proverb.
Yeah. We might talk some more about this, particularly about the treatment and what you can do if you're addicted, what parents might be able to do if they fear their children are addicted. Yeah. Stick around. We've got somebody from your clinic coming in as well.
That's right, yeah.
We'll be back with more of this after this.
Welcome back. We're continuing our chat about the dangers of the drug ice with Richard Smith, and we're joined now by Simon Francis, who's recently graduated from Richard's clinic. Simon, thanks for coming in.
Good morning.
Well, between the two of you, how about you just explain what the clinic is, and Simon, you can tell us, you know, how you actually got involved.
Well, I used drugs for about 23 years, and towards the end I was using ice, and basically turned me into a maniac. And I had a point where I was, you know, fighting with my family, my mother and father, which are beautiful, lovely people. And I got to a point where I was punching on with my father, and I was calling my mother every name under the sun, and I was standing over them. I couldn't hold a job down. Everything that I did was basically in the pursuit of getting this drug. And when you're on it, you want more and more and more. And when you're off it, all you do is try to find ways to get more. So, yeah, basically I got to a point where I was actually